After falling just one game shy of making the NBA playoffs last season, this young OKC Thunder team came back this year with team superstar Shai Gilgeous-Alexander orchestrating an MVP caliber season and with second-year player Jalen Williams posting borderline all-star numbers. But most notably, after sitting out what was supposed to be his rookie year, unicorn Chet Holmgren finally stepped on the floor for OKC, while quickly proving to be the perfect missing piece for the team on both ends of the floor. As a result, the Thunder now enter the 2024 NBA playoffs as a top 3 offensive team and a top 4 defensive team, all while being the top-seeded team in the Western Conference. Now, with Chet Holmgren at center, with SGA, J-Dub, and Josh Giddey initiating on-ball, with Lu Dort clamping down opponents, and with a variety of high-level role players alongside them, the only thing that's missing for this young team is playoff experience. But now, they're finally getting that against a familiar New Orleans Pelicans team that they've already defeated in last season's play-in tournament. Well, the Pelicans actually had a slow start this season, which was marked by a lot of early injuries, but by the middle of the year, the Pels actually bounced back to become one of the NBA's strongest teams, boasting a top 6 defense which is anchored by all-NBA type defenders in Herb Jones and Jose Alvarado, as well as a top 11 offense fueled by strong performances by their stars in Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and most notably Zion Williamson, who this year actually stayed healthy enough to play 70 games for the first time in his career, only for him to get hurt once again during their play-in loss against the Lakers. Well, the thing is, Zion's hamstring injury could likely cost him to be out for at least half of the first round against OKC, and so far, his absence has definitely been felt by the Pels after they lost a nail-biter to OKC in Game 1, 94-92. So what's good everyone, it's Real Balls here, and in this video, let's break down how OKC grinded out a win against the Pelicans in game number 1 and what we can actually expect to happen further down the line in this series. Let's get to it. The Thunder and the Pelicans actually faced each other 3 times in the regular season, with OKC winning the season series 2-1. And in those 3 games, the Pelicans notably scored just 103.4 points per 100 possessions against OKC, which is the 4th worst scoring average put up by any team versus OKC this season. Which is why in game number 1 of the playoffs, it's no surprise that the Pelicans once again struggled to make shots against OKC's elite defense, with no one outside of Jonas Valanciunas in the Pels starting lineup shooting more than 45% from the field, and with Brandon Ingram most notably just scoring 12 points on a poor 29% shooting clip. As expected, Chet Holmgren led the defensive charge for OKC as he owned 5 of OKC's 7 blocks in the game, but overall, it was a group effort for the Thunder as they actually made 3 crucial defensive stops that exposed the Pels' offensive shortcomings during the last 2 minutes of the game. In this possession, with CJ McCollum initiating the offense, you can see Larry Nance Jr. setting a pin-down screen here for Brandon Ingram to get to his spot. But then you can see Lu Dort fighting through the screen as he just hounds the bigger Ingram on the post-up before he ultimately takes advantage of the guy's momentum, resulting in an offensive foul. This time, the Pelicans run a pick and roll between McCollum and Larry Nance Jr. As the big man rolls to the paint, you can see the quick switch from Shai, while Chet loads up in the dunker spot to cover Herb Jones. Right here, Nance thinks he's got an opening, only for Chet to read his move as Chet blocks his shot mid-air. Then here, in the game's final possession, you can see J-Dub picking up McCollum, but then the screen from Trey Murphy forces the switch to Cason Wallace. You can just see how well the rookie guards McCollum step for step as he gets the deflection and bodies up his man until the end to force the missed potential game winner from McCollum. But then, if there's one team in the Western Conference that can lock up the Thunder and prevent them from getting easy shots, it's definitely this New Orleans Pelicans team who are a borderline top 10 defense. And in Game 1, they actually showed that they're capable of slowing down OKC in stretches. Particularly, OKC was actually held without a single field goal for more than 5 minutes in the 4th quarter. But then here, at the 143 mark of the game, Shai gets to work. He's guarded by the Pelicans' best defender Herb Jones, so Isaiah Joe tries to free him up with a back pick. Shai doesn't get the switch, but he still utilizes what he's got around him as he uses that subtle behind the back move to create space as he torches Herb Jones with a mid-range shot, giving OKC their first bucket in more than 5 minutes. Then, in the next possession, with 41 seconds left in the game and the score tied, Herb Jones does a pretty good job of denying Shai the ball, so again Shai gets to work, setting the ghost screen which forces the switch on CJ McCollum. Now, with an easier matchup in front of him, Shai decides to attack the lane, and using his length, he gets McCollum to bite on the shot as Shai drains the off-balance mid-range shot plus a foul, putting OKC up by 2 with 32 seconds left in the game. Well, Shai, being the best player in this series as expected, came up big in the clutch, while on the other hand, the Pelicans' lack of consistent shot making down the stretch, especially with Zion Williamson sidelined, was quite evident, which actually comes as no surprise, as in the 3 games versus OKC in the regular season, the Pelicans actually scored 108.5 points per 100 possessions in the 71 minutes that Zion was on the floor, but they only put up a minuscule 91.4 points per 100 in the 73 minutes that Zion was on the bench. Depending on how long Zion's injury keeps him sidelined, Coach Willie Green definitely needs to find lineups that can score enough for the Pelicans, because if he can't, the Pelicans might not linger long enough to give Zion a chance to make a late series comeback. Although one thing that really kept the Pelicans in game number 1 was their superior rebounding ability. OKC was actually a bottom 4 rebounding team in the regular season, and the only team in the playoffs with a worse rebounding mark than them is Indiana. And in game number 1, the Pelicans did take advantage of this fact, as they grabbed a total of 18 offensive rebounds, 9 of which came from Jonas Valanciunas. And what's worse for OKC is that those offensive rebounds gave the Pelicans a total of 22 second chance points, while OKC only had 11. In this possession, you can see Chet Holmgren patrolling the paint, but as the Pels run a quick side handoff play, Herb Jones gets a driving lane which forces Chet to provide a weak side help. This alters the shot by Jones, but this also leaves no one to box Valanciunas out as he gets the easy putback. Then here, Trey Murphy attacks the paint against OKC's drop coverage, and here he tries to outmuscle Giddey on the block, which again forces Chet to help. Chet and Aaron Wiggins try their best to tie Valanciunas down, but he still gets the rebound. He kicks the ball out to Alvarado, who then swings it out to Trey Murphy, who hits the 3-pointer over the late contest. With a size advantage that he brings in this series, the presence of Jonas Valanciunas could end up as a real game changer for the Pelicans, especially once Zion Williamson comes back. So I think for OKC, asking Chet Holmgren to attack Valanciunas more to potentially get him into foul trouble to make him unplayable could be something that we could see more in the coming games. But aside from grabbing those offensive rebounds and taking advantage of second chance scoring opportunities, the Pelicans' tight perimeter defense also enabled them to hold the Thunder, the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA, to 31% shooting from deep in game number 1. But despite their 3-point shots not falling, the Thunder were still able to get enough shots to win the game by sticking to their identity as the NBA's number 1 driving team and the NBA's best team in transition. As in game number 1, OKC dominated the Pelicans in terms of fast break points 20-7, and they also edged out the Pels in terms of points scored in the paint 42-28. Again, because of the fact that the Thunder are the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA with their shooters capable of catching fire anytime, whenever OKC drove to the paint, the Pelicans were always faced with a pick-your-poison mentality when trying to figure out how to approach OKC defensively. Here in semi-transition, you can see Shai on an island against Larry Nance Jr. The Pels play a zone to contain OKC shooters, but as Shai starts his driving motion, you can see all of the Pelicans slowly shifting their focus in the paint to provide potential help. But Nance simply can't stop Shai's first step as he easily drives to the baseline for the easy bucket. Then in this play, again it starts with Shai driving and forcing the Pelicans defense to collapse in the paint. He kicks it out to Chet Holmgren, who quickly attacks Ingram on the flyby closeout. Watch him lose Ingram with a spin before Chet drains that nasty step back mid-range shot. Well, it's definitely too early in the series to make quick conclusions, and to be fair, even with OKC having home court advantage, the Pelicans have always displayed the ability to win on the road. In fact, they are 28-14 on the road this year, which is the best road record in the NBA this season. Even so, I think the Pelicans' best chance to upset a team like OKC that has top 5 marks both offensively and defensively is for them to have Zion Williamson back. But still, even with Zion back, I don't think the Thunder have any real exploitable areas in their game. That plus the fact that the Thunder have the best talent in this series with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, to me just screams an early playoff exit for the Pelicans. But who do you guys have winning this series between the Thunder and the Pelicans? Feel free to drop your predictions in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this is Real Balls, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.